video 2, I do want to talk about my childhood. I'm going to go back and forth, kind of in my childhood to where I am now. I do want to kind of go through where, we'll start by the end. We're going to go over where I am now and kind of how I got there, my path to success and my success so far, that is, because I still got a long way to go. But starting out, I worked as a kid. My first job, I did construction with my best friend's dad, who I call my dad. I mean, he taught me a ton in life, and he taught me a lot while working with him. He taught me to finish the job, make sure that it wasn't like, halfway done, because he would make us go back and redo stuff if it was ever halfway done. Even if it's still functional and it still worked, he would still make us go back and redo it so that it was done right. So I learned not to cut corners and do it the right way with him. I did that from age 11, probably all the way through to when I was about 16. And at 16, I decided to get a job elsewhere, and my sister was working at Outback Steakhouse. So I started there when I was 16, going on 17, and I started as a busboy, and I really worked my ass off in that job. I was there, at the beginning of the day, working, learning everything I could. I started with, I did dishwashing, I did bussing tables, I'd clean up the bar, learn as much as I could about the bar, and I learned very quickly that the more I knew, the more valuable they saw me. All the way to the point where, me and my brother actually we got the employees of the year or month or whatever it was, but we were recognized for doing well and working hard, because we both learned that we had to study what we were doing and really work at it to be able to do well. And quickly, once we decided we wanted to do anything, they would allow us to do it, because they just knew we would work that hard. And in that job, one thing that I took away the most is that people in that job, as I was there, you heard a lot that there was no way you were going to make more money. That's what everybody always would say. It was an entry-level job. People that worked there were all entry-level, and they were making good money, but it was good money to them, and to a lot of people around you. I mean, because most people don't talk about how much money they make. So when you're making, at that age, when you're making, a little under $100 a day, it seems great. It seems like great money. And everybody said, this is, the best it's going to get. You're not going to get anything better. This is entry level, and until you get a degree, you're not going to make any more money. And I believed that for a long time. And then I started working as a waiter there, and I started making more. And I thought to myself, well, I'm making more than I was when they said I was making the most I could. So I was a little bit, taken back by that. Like, how was this, if that was really as much as I could make, then how am I making more now? And so I continued on to work and work, my ass off, working hard, learning the craft. And eventually something came along where people would leave and they would go elsewhere, and then we heard that someone had a job and they were making more money. And I thought to myself, well, I thought this was the best, you could make. And many people thought that as well. They said that that's not true. They're not making as much as they're saying. They're just saying that. You can't be making that much more because nobody makes that much more. And I'm sure you've all heard that at some point. And so I thought to myself, well, let me check it out. Let me ask them a little about it. They start telling me, they're making almost $300 a day. And I was like, $300 a day is twice as much as I'm making, or 3 times as much as I'm making. And I would love to have that kind of money, and it kind of just makes sense to me. I joined the military. This is a story, but I joined the military, got into a car accident, and got honorably discharged from the military. So I was never really able to even leave for boot camp for the military, really. So it was, I don't even know if you consider that, but that's what they called it anyway. So um, I was getting ready to have a baby as well. My oldest baby was getting ready to be born, and so I was stressing out. I needed to find a better career that I thought I could make more money, and I heard about this place and went there and applied and kind of just stepped out. And everybody, I mean everybody, even the mother of my child they all said it was a bad move. I wasn't gonna make as much money. So no matter who I talked to, they all told me that I was wrong for that. And I did it anyways. And when I did and I got to the new place, I learned it was a lot better. You made a lot more money. I made 3, 4, 5 times as much as I was making at the other job, and that was I was still working my ass off because I was going to do that no matter what. I learned from my first job that I was going to work my ass off, and it was worth it to work my ass off rather than having to come back and do it again. So I went to that next job and I said, I'm going to continue to work my ass off and let's see where it takes me. And it took me far, and I made a lot more money. I made more, more friends, and not necessarily friends, but people in business, that in management, and they all, they saw me as the hard worker that I was and the learner that I was, and they saw the value because I gave them that value from myself. And I learned that from my first job, that you're more valuable to your employer when you really do prove that you're going to work your ass off. So again, at that job, I got an employee of the month over and over, and had the highest sales in liquor and all that stuff because I was still waitering at that job. And from that point, I went to another job within that same. It was like a hotel resort. That I went to another job within that job, and that job had promises to it as well, but then it had those things. Every job you go to, they say there's a ton of downsides and then some upside, and that's kind of, you get that bad and that good, and people are more likely to always tell you the bad than they are the good, I've learned. So I heard about it, people told me don't do it, and I did it. I took a leap of faith. I went to the next position. It was like a banquet style job, and and I was able to then, so having my second child, I was able to then work 1 week and take the next week off and still make just as much as I was making in the last job. And so I did that for probably about 6 months, and was able to spend a lot of time with my babies when they were young. I bought a house in between that time. I bought a house when I was 19 or 20. I don't really remember anymore, but bought a house, had no idea what I was doing. That's definitely a story that I'll talk about as well, because that was one of the better decisions that kind of propelled me into the business of real estate and stuff like that. But I had to drive such a far distance. It was in DC. I was in Fredericksburg, which, those that don't know the areas, I mean, we're talking, I was commuting 1.5 hours to 2 hours each way every day. And that got to be a hassle, so I decided I needed to look elsewhere. And so I started looking for different careers, and one kind of just fell in my lap. And actually the first time I applied for it, I failed. And they said that I had to wait 6 months in order to apply again. So I applied for it again after that 6 months, and that time I actually made it work. I passed. So when I got in and got the job, again, everybody before I left was like, "You're crazy. You're working 1 week, taking off the next. You're making all this money. Why would you leave?" And to me, it wasn't necessarily about the money at this point. At this point, it was actually about the time, because though I was doing a lot less time, or giving only working 1 week off, 1 week on. First off, it was tough to get shifts because it was that good of a job, but also it was the commute. I was spending 4 hours every time I decided to work, so 4 hours driving, and then I'd only be able to work sometimes for like 2 hours. So the time away was really adding up for the time that I was actually getting off. So I didn't feel like I was getting as much time with the kids. as I wanted. So moved on to the new position. Everybody said it was dumb. You know, I was told, you know, promises in this new job, I was going to be able to make, you know, your regular sales, you know, salary, which was like $30,000 plus. You would make commissions, and in order to the commissions that you would make would be up to $5,000 per month, which was good. I mean, it was great at that time because and you know, because again, it's entry level, and you're still hearing all these voices from everybody telling you like this is the best it's going to get. They keep saying that, and then every time I move to the next position, everybody tells me how dumb I am and how, you know, this is the best you're going to get. It's never going to get better. So I move on to that next job, and I mean, I'm killing it. I'm working my ass off. I'm learning everything there is about the job. I'm studying I'm trying to become a professional, which is a subject that I am going to talk about later on. But I'm working on becoming a professional in what I do, and so I was making the cap and bonus, you know, every month. I'm making, you know, $5,000 extra on top of my regular salary every month, and it's easy, you know. I'm making it happen very easily, and you know, as I'm there, there's a lot of people that are, you know, of course, they don't like you when you do well, or they love you when you do well. You never really know what you're going to get in that position because in sales, period, it's very cutthroat for the most part. So, you know, and so the last kind of shift before I started doing my own type of stuff was, you know, I'm in this job. In this job, I'm making a lot of money. I'm one of the best there, and I decided that I wanted more, you know, and I thought I deserved more. I thought you know, with how hard I worked, I should get more. And so I started looking again. And as I'm looking, you hear the same thing. You know, everybody's saying the same thing. But at this point, you realize there's a shift, and you realize maybe everybody is confused. And in every position, there's always something better. There's always something that can be created to become better. Even if you're in the best position now, there may be something that you can create that would be a better position. So it may not be there right now, but it may be something that can be there. And all you have to do is find it or create it. And so I looked, and I found a couple different things. I was looking at different offers. I got a lot of emails from different companies. And I started searching through, and I got an offer from one company that I'd never heard of, and it sounded, you know, way too good to be true. I have no degree. I have, you know, and when I applied in that position, it was a requirement that I had a bachelor's degree and that I had a ton of experience, and I ignored that. I ignored that for every single post. I would have applied to become a doctor if I had that pop up on my thing. I didn't care. I was applying for everything, and I would let them tell me that I wasn't qualified. And if I wasn't qualified, tell me why. Because at the end of the day, when you're sitting in front of somebody and they say you're not qualified because you don't have a degree, you would have to ask them, why is that? You know, what makes it, if I had a degree, then would you hire me? And if they say yes, then you let them know, okay, well, then give me 30 days. If I can't do this in 30 days and prove to you that I can do this in 30 days, then let me go. There's no harm to you to hire me, and the only thing I'm missing is that degree. So give me a shot, and you've got to be willing to step out and do that. But anyways, I get the position, or I apply for the position, even though, you know, I'm supposed to have a bachelor's degree, and I'm telling, you know, my girlfriend, soon-to-be wife at the time, that it's crazy. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, and if it's true, if what they're saying is true, then we're gonna be all right. Like, we're gonna be okay. And you know, a lot was going on at that time. It was extremely stressful, but you know, about a month and a half, 2 months later of just interview after, I mean, they put me through. I had to meet with like the CEO of the company and interview with him in order to be able to get hired, because I did not have the requirements to be hired. It was like that bad, but they put me through. I talked to him. I didn't even know he was the CEO. I thought he was a manager, and And I talked to him just like I would anybody else. And I told him, give me the opportunity. If you give it to me, then you're going to see why you should hire me. You don't have to ask that question because I'm going to show you. And if I don't, then let me go. And when that happened, when that shift kind of in my mindset kind of changed everything. Because at that point, when they hired me, I realized that I could really get whatever I wanted and do whatever I wanted to do. And from that point forward, I started to do everything. Everything I wanted in life, I went after. And yeah, I got married. I did everything that I wanted, and eventually I got to the point where stuff started to come easy. It wasn't nearly as hard as it used to be, and even now when I decide I want to do something like a business or a venture or whatever, I don't think about the money. I don't think about the people, what it'll cost, who I'll need, anything like that. It's all just, how can I make this happen? And it doesn't matter what it's going to take. I'm going to do it. And that makes a lot of people crazy around me because they're like, this is impossible. Why are you even thinking about this? Or what are you doing? And I don't hear any of it. I don't care. Whatever it takes, I'll do it, because I know that it's possible to do. Because if anybody's done it before, I can do it. And I knew when I started this job and they interviewed me and they said, just so everybody doesn't make the kind of money that that these people make, and it's commission only. So if you don't do well, you don't get paid. And I said, well, is there anybody that makes that kind of money? And they said, yeah, definitely. And I said, okay, well, if somebody makes it, then I'll make it. Period. Because I'm better than somebody, and I always will be better than somebody. And they love that, and a lot of people don't like that. But I am not saying in that instant, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily better at that moment, but I will be better, because I'm promising myself that forever I will be better. I will get better. I will work harder than anybody else. And as long as that's true, then I don't care what other people think about that, because everybody should promise that within themselves to be better. They should always think, like, how can I get better? How will I be better? And what do I need to do to get to that next step? And that's something that I will always do, and so I will always be better than you and whoever else. And that should be your attitude. And so, needless to say, from this job, I started different business ventures, stocks, real estate, a lot of other things that I, again, will talk about. This was kind of one of the first ones to talk about, one, persistence, two, not being afraid to really step out and try something and take a risk, and not listening to what anybody is saying. If you want something, then go get it. People are so afraid. They would ask, what happens, what if you go broke? What if you don't sell anything? What if you don't make any money? And then I would think to myself, okay, well, then what? If I go broke, I won't stay broke. That doesn't force me to stay where I'm at. Just like where I'm at right now, I don't have to stay. So if I want to leave that position, then all I have to do is walk. So if I go broke, what do I need to be afraid of? I'm already broke. So you just walk and you move forward. And that's something that I've never really understood with people and their irrational fears. Because some may say that it's irrational the way I think, but I think it's completely the opposite. You are irrational if you are afraid to go broke. Because when you go broke, you can just walk and do it again. You've learned your lesson and now you can move forward. So be persistent, be great, work your ass off, and it'll be easy.